Every time I'm on a podcast, I get asked, what are your favorite Marvel characters? Well, this week we're going to tell you on Talkin Comics. What is up, everybody? Patrick Hickey Jr. here, Editor-in-Chief of Legacy Comics, bringing you another edition of Talkin Comics. This week out, we're going to have a little bit of fun. So, the first week we talked about the origin of the job. Last week we talked about something super heady and deep and inclusion in comics. This week I want to have a little bit of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down my 10 favorite Marvel characters. So this isn't to say these are the 10 best characters in Marvel. These aren't to say these are the coolest 10 characters in Marvel. These are like the 10 Marvel characters that have had like the biggest impact on me as a writer. And there's going to be some glaring omissions, so I look forward to those in the comments. I look forward to getting DMs from you and messages saying, how come this guy isn't on the list? Or how come this female character isn't on the list? Or how come, Rocket Raccoon isn't on the list? You talk about Rocket all the time. I'm like, yes, I know. So, for a little bit about me, if this is the first time you're tuning in, my name is Patrick Hickey Jr. I am the owner and editor-in-chief of Legacy Comics. I'm the author of the Condry series, the Job series, Kroom, Dem Gulls, Brooklyn Bleeds. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades here at Legacy Comics. Been a published journalist for about 18 years. I've got 7 books under my belt on video game history. I've contributed to several more books on video game history. I'm also an accomplished voice actor in the video game industry, starring in games such as BPM Boy, The Padre, and the upcoming game Wrestle Quest. So, I'm a big pop culture geek. But without any further ado, let's just get right into number 10. Number 10 is Luke Cage. Why Luke Cage? Luke Cage, to me, is a badass. And I love me a badass. There's a scene in Civil War where, they're coming for Luke Cage, and he tells Jessica Jones to just get away from the door. I got this. There's so many scenes in the New Avengers, in Civil War, in the original series, in the Volume 2 series when they tried to make that ill-fated comeback in the 90s, where Luke Cage just stands up for what is right and he takes absolutely no shit. I love that about him. I love the depth of the character. I love when he became a father later on and became a different type of protector of Harlem and protector of the innocents. I love the growth of this character over the past, 40 years. He's awesome. He's amazing. So we're going to jump from a character with a ton of depth in Luke Cage to a character that doesn't have so much in Darkhawk. It takes a Darkhawk. Oh my god. I have Darkhawk number 1. I was shocked when I found out that it might be worth something at some point. I think the value's gone down in recent years. It went up like crazy one year. Now it's back down to like $20. But when I was a kid, he was like the cool new character on the block, and he was teaming up with Venom and Spider-Man, and I've always had a soft spot for him. I like that later on he was brought back for, like some space opera stuff, and he's been killed off since, and who knows what they're doing with the character. But for me, he was like one of the first new characters that like I could get latched onto as a kid. And I've always liked Chris Powell. Always have. He's not a great character. I don't even think that there's like one Darkhawk storyline that was memorable to me. Like as a kid, I just like that he was from New York and he had this cool ass armor, and I love the art of Darkhawk. Darkhawk 25 had that sick hologram cover. Loved it. So, Darkhawk, number 9. Number 8, he's a newer character. Talkin. Why do I love Talkin? Talkin is all about depth. If you guys don't know who Talkin is, he is Wolverine's son. He's got claws. He's got different types of claws. He's more of an impaler, while Wolverine is more of a stabber. Talkin can rip your heart out. But also, the thing that I like about Talkin is that Talkin can absolutely seduce men, women. He uses his pheromones. There's like a scene of Dark Avengers where, like, if Talkin wanted, he could have gotten like Bullseye to perform some interesting actions, so to speak. Epic scene. The relationship with his father is awesome. It makes for some great storytelling. His design is awesome. I love the tats. I love the mohawk. If you guys don't know who Talkin is and you've never checked him out, you absolutely should. So that's number 8. Number 7. The Human Torch. Johnny Storm. Oh, I remember when he was killed off. I was in graduate school. I went to Midtown Comix in New York City, which was like right down the block from my graduate school, to pick up that issue because I knew it was going to be epic. And yes, I did tear a little bit at the end. But why Johnny Storm? Because he's awesome. The movies, not so good. We're not even going to talk about the Michael B. Jordan one. But the first two, when Captain America, Chris Evans is playing Human Torch, I thought he was exactly what the Human Torch should have been. This blonde hair, blue-eyed, like, irrational, impatient badass, you know, that is willing to, like, stand up for what he believes and not think as much, you know. So growing up, I wanted to be Human Torch because I looked like him, because I wasn't nearly as cool as Johnny Storm, but I would have liked to be. So yeah, that's number 7. Number 6, Frank Castle himself, the Punisher. Why the Punisher? Because this character just continues to find ways to make himself interesting and viable. So a lot of people are talking now about the symbol change on his chest, and for me, the Donny Cates stuff, when he becomes the Herald of Galactus, oh my god, when he becomes Ghost Rider, Cosmic Ghost Rider, amazing stuff. But like, I'm talking, I love Old School Punisher War Journal, the Tim Bradstreet art of Punisher stuff. Like, I mean, this is just a character that has found his way to adapt through the times and just be an awesome character that so many artists love to draw, so many writers love to write. He's got that traditional comic book storyline where his family was killed and blah, 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 but there's just so much more under the surface to Frank Castle. So, yeah, Punisher has had a huge impact on me as a writer. Just that sense of loss, and that sense of, like, sometimes the bad thing is the right thing to do. I just love that about Frank Castle. And again, just the ability to adapt and become viable in a changing marketplace. Like, I don't know if the Punisher from the 70s would be viable today, but Punisher Cosmic Ghost Rider is definitely viable. The Punisher that they have now is totally viable. So I just love the adaptability of the Punisher. Totally badass. So that is number 6. So. Number 5. Ghost Rider. But not Johnny Blaze. Dan Ketch. That volume 2 of Ghost Rider, I would say like the first 6 or 7 issues, when Dan's sister dies. If you haven't read it, I'm sorry for spoiling, but it's over 35 years old. Like, no, it's not over 35 years old. It's like 1990, 1991. It's like 32, 33 years old. Damn, I'm old. Oh my god. When Dan faces off with the Scarecrow, yes, Marvel Comics has their own Scarecrow, and he's pretty awesome. You should totally check him out. The art on that Ghost Rider run is so good, and being a 7-8-year-old and being able to pick that up at a newsstand and literally be scared but be affected, like when I'm not sure if his sister's name was Barbara. It might not be. Oh my god, I'm a terrible comic book reader. But man, that was like one of my first deaths in comics. I know Jason Todd had died before that. I know there was another Robin. I know Batman's parents died, and I know Uncle Ben died, but that was like the first death in comics that I read like as it was happening, or it was the first death in comics I read myself. So super important, and I just love, again, the art in that Ghost Rider run, volume 2. There's an omnibus of it, a trade paperback. It's pretty cheap. I would totally suggest checking it out as the cops drive by in Brooklyn, New York, in my apartment. So yeah. So anyway, that was number 5. Number 4, Now we're getting into like really nitty gritty, and this is hard because these four are like almost interchangeable to me at any given time depending on my mood. And I will say Venom, Eddie Brock, not Matt Gargan, not any of the, not Flash Thompson. As much as I love Flash Thompson, as much as I love Matt Gargan as Venom, Eddie Brock, the character, his portrayal of Venom, the Donny Cates stuff is amazing. The Todd McFarlane Venom is amazing. The Eric Larson Venom is amazing. Eddie Brock as Anti-Venom is amazing. The symbiote is awesome. I'm a kid of the 90s. So, Venom has always been an important character to me. But the thing is, too, when they started to take the deep dive into Venom's personality and everything that he lost, because, like, his origin story is kind of stupid. I mean, he was, like, kind of, like, skimming off the top, and he wasn't that good of a journalist, and blah, 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 blah. It's not that interesting. But I think that I really started to like Venom during the Anti-Venom stuff, when he's got cancer, and there's all of this loss, and he's trying to find himself, and I feel like Donny Cates capitalized on that even more with a couple of other storylines where, you know, the symbiote is like a dog, and they haven't latched on to each other in a while, and the symbiote is, like, kind of cut off from Eddie, and Eddie has to take care of the symbiote like a sick child. Like, the connection's been broken. So much good stuff. And then King in Black, I mean, oh my god, you know. And then the Carnage stuff before that, man, so much good stuff. So yeah, like Venom, absolutely top four. The top four you kind of consider my Mount Rushmore. So I definitely think. Can you imagine Marvel without Venom in the past 30 years? Could you imagine Marvel without, like, Venom, Deadpool, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man over the last 30 years? Like, you'd have, like, no MCU and stuff. Throw the Avengers in there as well. But see, that's the thing with the Avengers. I love Avengers comics. I love the history of Avengers comics. But I have to say, like, I didn't really become a super duper fan of the Avengers until, like, the Ultimates. I respected the history. I knew the history, you know. But House of M, New Avengers, Dark Avengers, Savage Avengers. Because, like, man, when I was a kid growing up, 1990, 1991, 1992, you've got West Coast Avengers, you got this. Like, it was just, it was boring to me. There was so much other cool stuff going on in Marvel, like 91, 92. You've got, you know, 90, 91, 92, you got McFarlane on Spider-Man. You got Robbie Liefeld on X-Factor, on X-Force and New Mutants. You've got Will Spertaccio on X-Factor. You've got Eric Larson, too, on Spider-Man. You've got so much cool stuff going on, and I feel like the Avengers were kind of like a thing of the past. It was the old guard. It was like super 80s, and it wasn't until I got older and I got into, like, you know, Roger Stern and John Byrne and Dave Cockrum and Chris Claremont and Steve Englehart that I started to appreciate all of the 80s things that were going on, like the 80s Captain America run, you know, with some Baron Blood in there. There's so much good stuff in the 80s, but, like, I was too young to appreciate it. So I feel like a real comic book fan goes back and reads all of that stuff. That's why I love those Marvel Essential series where, you know, you could go and get, like, the first 50 issues of Spider-Man, sure, in black and white, but for, like, $15. And I was introduced to, like, the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, you know, Joe Simon, like, all the really, really classic stuff that forged all of the stories that I love now. So, yeah. Venom, man. Number 4. Kind of got off topic a little bit. Venom, totally number 4. Number 3, Wolverine. I mean, Wolverine is my dad's favorite character. Because my dad's like 5'10", scrappy guy. Not the biggest dog in the fight, but got a lot of fight in the dog kind of thing going on. I'm the best at what I do. I mean, Wolverine was synonymous with a whole group of children in the 90s just because of that goddamn X-Men cartoon. But going back, the Frank Miller, Chris Claremont stuff. Oh my god. So good. For me, reading that in my early 20s, so good. Wolverine origin and finding out his, like, accepted backstory. Oh my god. Old Man Logan, so good. Jim Lee, run of X-Men, so good. Wolverine is awesome. You know, like I said, you introduce Talkin, you introduce X-23 later on. This is a character with super staying power. You cannot imagine Marvel without Wolverine. And for me, like, I just love the grit of the character. I love that he's broken. I love that he's loved and lost. I love that he feels like a real person. I've never drank or smoked in my entire life, but I'm telling you that if Wolverine existed, I would absolutely smoke a cigar with him or have a shot of whiskey. Because fucking Wolverine, man. He's awesome. He takes, again, go back to Luke Cage, badass. So for me, like New Avengers, when you have Wolverine and Luke Cage on the same team, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm all in. So yeah, Wolverine, number 3. For me, number 2, this goes back, I just mentioned Frank Miller's run on Wolverine. Frank Miller's run on Daredevil changed the character forever, made the character viable, made him marketable more than ever, made him a household name. Marvel would never be the same without Daredevil. This whole Marvel Knights imprint that they launched back in the day, you wouldn't have it without the success of Daredevil. So seeing Daredevil grow through the work of Frank Miller, then falling in love with the Daredevil series with Brian Michael Bendis, who is probably one of my biggest influences as a writer. Jim Starlin is up there. Frank Miller is up there. Peter Hogan is up there. Well, that's an episode for another day. Like the writers that have affected me the most, but like David Mack, Alex Maleev, John Romita Jr., Joe Quesada, their work on Daredevil with like Brian Michael Bendis and Kevin Smith, huge impact on me. I love the character. When the Netflix series came out, I just kept saying to myself, please do not screw it up. Please don't screw it up. And I was just so happy with how good that series was. And I'm so happy that it's coming back. But like Daredevil, is another guy. He's loved and lost. He takes a beating every time he fights. He's terrible with women. He's terrible with his secret identity. He's just awful, like, as a superhero, but he's so awesome at the same time. He's got some great friends. He's got some not so great friends. I mean, we could just go down the list of characters in the Daredevil Rogues Gallery. I think he has one of the most underrated Rogues Galleries ever, from Typhoid Mary and Kingpin and The Hand. And, so good. For me, Daredevil, totally, like, number 2. Huge impact, especially because of my love of noir and gritty, hard-boiled comics. I can't imagine writing. I don't know if I would have ever gotten into comics if I didn't read Guardian Devil and the Frank Miller Daredevil run. I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, number 1, the people that truly know me, know exactly where I'm going here, and Spider-Man. And the reason why, again, is adaptability. Whether it be Superior Spider-Man, whether it be the Clone Saga, whether it be Secret Wars, whether it be the Symbiote Wars, whether it be, Steve Ditko drawing, Eric Larson, Mark Bagley. There's been so many amazing people attached to Spider-Man. J. Michael Straczynski, J. Scott Campbell. And for me, they've all left their own impact on Spider-Man. They all have. And they've all found a way to make Spider-Man pertinent in this time, successful, and to embody all of the great things that make Spider-Man Spider-Man. So for me, it's just like this nerdy kid. And now he's like a middle-aged guy, but he's just this guy that has had this life. And he's managed to grow and adapt and become better and worse and change, but all at the same time try his hardest to be the best version of himself every single day. And paying bills and managing relationships and managing friendships and wanting to be the best version of himself every single day. For me, with great power with great power comes great responsibility, to me, is like a mantra that I live my life with. I'll never forget the first time I read when Gwen Stacy died. I'll never forget Amazing Spider-Man number 500. I'll never forget Amazing Spider-Man number 375. I'll never forget the death of, like I think I just said it, the death of Gwen Stacy. When Mary Jane and Peter got married. The first time we saw the symbiote. There's so many amazing moments. When Dr. Octavius becomes Superior Spider-Man. The Clone Saga. There is just so much amazing content. And it's not just one writer. It's not just one artist. That's the best thing. Spider-Man has been a launching pad for so many amazing careers. You've got to love him. And if you don't, you're crazy. You've got to appreciate what the web slinger has brought to Marvel. So for me, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This is my top 10 Marvel characters that have influenced me the most. Till next time.